Hi folks, hope you're doing fine. This is Gre Monday and Monroe again with Mrs. Zangeneh.
Okay, previous session we talked about the prompt, which was actually about taking out a loan. A bunch of developers wanted to establish a jazz music club named C-Note in Monroe. And it was mostly about assumptions, stated or unstated assumptions. Today, we want to analyze the same prompt, but a different instruction. This time, it says that what specific evidence is needed to evaluate the argument and explain how the evidence would weaken or strengthen the argument. You see, it's a little different.
It's a little different, but you said that the bases are the same. I mean, finding assumptions and also the evidence-based questions.
At first, we need to find the assumption,
and then try to substantiate them.
Or we have to substantiate it. So what do we need to substantiate this?
Right.
To weaken or to strengthen?
We should show them both, right? Evidence.
Yes.
To weaken.
Actually, a thorough analysis is something that considers both sides. Here it says that a jazz music club in Monroe would be a tremendously profitable enterprise. Right. Currently, why? Because the nearest jazz club is 65 miles away. Thus, the proposed new jazz club in Monroe, the C-Note, would have the local market all to itself. The first assumption here is that, hey, we have a market here. What do we have to support this?
For example, there was a survey and people said we need a jazz music club here.
Did they really run the survey? Do we know anything about the survey, about the results? Who conducted that? What do we know about that?
No, nothing.
Okay, that's it. You know, we need to ask for specific evidence. So, first of all, we find the assumption. Okay, the assumption is that we already have a local market here. What if we don't? What if a lot of just like elderly people live here? Or what if this area is industrial area and just not a lot of people live here, you know? And what if the fact that 65 miles away is the nearest jazz club proves this, that, hey, we do not have a market here? What about the previous competitors? Why didn't they even think about establishing a new jazz club here? So, what evidence do we need? Some hard facts, right? The results of surveys.
They're not
conducted by those people who are not, who do not gain any profit. You know, I mean, not developers themselves.
For sure.
Some government organization should have conducted this. So, you see, the way that we want to write an evidence-based essay is a little different. But the foundation is this. We need to find the assumption. The assumption here is that we already have a local market.
And that's interesting because there shouldn't be any kind of unfounded assumptions in the evidence that we are
yes, that's it. Yeah,
including in our tricky. Yeah, that's a little tricky.
And then the next premise that we have here is this. Plus, jazz is extremely popular in Monroe. The assumption is popular in Monroe. It's talking about popularity of jazz. Why? Because over 100,000 people attended Monroe's annual jazz festival last summer. So the assumption is this. Hey, all those 100,000 people are residents of the city. And another assumption is that they are willing to go to jazz club and they pay regular money each week or each night. So what evidence do we need to prove this? What do we need to substantiate this?
First, we need to show that based on real evidence, 100% of these people are living in Monroe based on their ID cards or whatever, or proof of their address. And also, we should
find something that establishes the connection between attending the festival
and going
to music club, jazz music club. So how can we find this out? Again, Survey?
Survey is one of those, but I don't want to repeat myself, so.
Yes, surveys are very important.
And what else? What else can it be here?
What else? We can also definitely see the trend. There are some important factors. Those people who go to jazz clubs, the age range is very important. The jobs, very important. And the free time that they have is very important. And the purchasing power that they have. So we can ask for different proofs, right? So that, hey, the arguer should come up with some proofs, some pieces of evidence proving that people living here have purchasing power to go to jazz club, and they have free time to do it. And most of them fall within the age range of those people who go to jazz clubs. If all people here are very old or very, very young, so, and they do not have their own income, so, these points definitely affect the conclusion that we want to arrive at here.
So, or what if I included a kind of record that the majority of these 100,000 people also pay regular visits to jazz music clubs? Would it be of help?
It would be of help, but again, not very much. We need some another piece of evidence proving that all these people
have purchasing power and live there first. Okay, that EID card will probably prove that.
If they live there and they are willing or they have paid money and they are the visitors of the neighboring state jazz music club. Again, it is not a very, very clear piece of evidence that those people who go to the other jazz club would definitely come to this jazz club, because there is possibility that a very famous musician is playing there and we do not have that kind of competitive advantage. So, you see, it is very different the way that we want to organize this.
Yeah, very different. All right, then what we got? In addition, there is ample evidence of the popularity of jazz in Monroe. Did we just talk about it? No. Over 100,000 people attend the jazz. Yeah, we talked about it. And several well-known jazz musicians live in Monroe.
Yes, the assumption is that those jazz musicians, they chose their location according to the level of popularity. Okay, so here the writer tries to convince us that because some famous musicians, some jazz musicians live here, therefore people love jazz, and finally, if we establish this jazz club, a lot of customers would go there and use the services provided by this club. The point is this. What evidence do we have to prove that, hey, jazz musicians have selected this area because they are very popular? Surveys again, or some interviews with...
Maybe interviews with famous jazz musicians.
And in that interview, we can ask some straight questions. Why did you choose living here?
Yeah.
Right?
That we should.
And we can ask people who are living there that, hey, if you love these jazz musicians, would you go to the jazz club if we establish one?
Oh, that's the connection.
Okay, I love something. I love some. Yeah, we talk about it. My favorite recreational activity is just like swimming. Doesn't mean that I necessarily use a swimming pool in our neighborhood.
No.
This is something else. So we need.
Or it doesn't mean you go watch it. Again, no.
So we need some specific.
Yeah.
It is different. You see, it is not like assumptions.
Yeah, very different. Very different. So so far, I guess this study or kind of survey helps us a lot.
Yes, very much.
Okay. And then we got this line, and the highest rated radio program in Monroe is Jazz Nightly.
Yes, the assumption is that, okay, so people
It's the only
choose to
option,
listen
and
to
they
this,
choose to-
yeah, because they love it and because it is very popular. We do not have any such evidence here that people choose this because they love it. Maybe it is the only option that they have.
Right.
Right. Other programs are not very useful or not very attractive. So, and we don't know about the exact number of listeners. It said that highest
Rated.
Okay. How many people? What are other rates? We don't know this. What are other rates? If we have a runner-up, if we have another program
We
which is
compete with
following
it,
this
yeah.
very closely, in that case, the other one also could be. And this rating process, how did it
How did it take
happen?
place, yeah.
Yes, we don't know anything about that.
So how can we provide evidence here?
Yes. How?
How?
You know,
or what
first-
kind of evidence will help?
Yeah, some piece of evidence proving that people choose to listen to this program because they love it.
Love it.
And they have
Other options?
So we need to know about the list of programs, radio programs. We need to know the result of some surveys asking this right question: that do you choose this program because you love it, or because?
And
it's
should we
some
include the
others?
question itself in our
Maybe at that time at 7 p.m. there aren't any other programs.
radio programs? Yeah.
Yeah. So we need to know all these points.
Well, my question is, should we include and mention the question itself in our writing, or it's not necessary?
When you are answering evidence-based essay, I do not recommend this. I see actually in some sample essays that whenever they do not have enough ideas, they include questions, they include assumptions. It's just like, I don't know, a combination of different things. It shows that you haven't addressed this prompt according to the instructions. So no, if I were you, I wouldn't do that. I said again, I see that there are some sample essays including some questions while the instruction as go for.
But it's not recommended. All right, and we got finally a nationwide study indicates that the typical jazz fan spends close to $1,000 per year on jazz entertainment. What about this? What kind of evidence?
Okay, the assumption behind this again is this: that hey, first of all, whatever happens nationwide happens here in Monroe, right? Maybe in some other cities there are super rich people. They spend a lot of money there. And
this is nationwide, so
yeah,
a
so
little
1,000.
problematic.
So, and the other point is that hey, $1,000, definitely part of that is going to jazz club. We
But
don't know
how much exactly?
How much exactly? So, how should we form it into evidence?
Let's provide
evidence-based,
a kind of
essay.
evidence that weakens.
Yes, for example, if some evidence is found proving that people who spend this amount of money mostly live in other cities.
Oh yeah.
The
Most
purchasing
definitely.
power of the people here, right? I mean,
Is not.
in other cities is just like 10 times higher than people
Yeah.
here. Or this city suffers from poverty, suffers from unemployment. Yes, we're talking about a country. A country, some parts of a country might be very good, just like, I don't know, the economy there is flourishing. But in other parts, unemployment, poverty. So if we found such evidence, definitely weakens this argument. And if we found that, hey, people spending $1,000 per year on jazz entertainment are not willing to go to jazz club, and the definition of entertainment is way different from our definition, which is going to jazz club, definitely that would weaken this.
Thank you very much. It was great. So guys, these were some pieces of evidence and the explanation how they can strengthen or weaken the argument in question, I mean the jazz club in Monroe. And in the next episode, we're going to talk about the same very prompt, but yet another instruction. Thank you for following us. and don't forget to leave us comments.
Bye-bye.
Bye.